Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's trade deadline day. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ALLCITY. Welcome to the CHGO Cubs podcast. It is indeed deadline day. The deadline has passed. Deals been made by your Chicago Cubs. Baseball games have been lost by your Chicago Cubs.
Hell yeah, brother.
And we're going to talk about all of it right here on the CHGO Cubs podcast.
And you're all unfortunately here to watch us do it.
And people are freaking out right now. They're going, where's Ryan?
It is fortunate for us.
It's fortunate that you're here.
It's fortunate you're here, but unfortunately you're here to listen to us talk about losing and selling. So
we have a big Mardi Gras event coming
that's
here
the unfortunate part.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, is the big Mardi Gras event.
Also, the bigger news, though, is that I'm sitting in the middle and Patrick's in my seat.
That's right. Patrick Norton sitting in Cody's seat.
Yeah.
Alpha move.
Yeah, you just took it right away. And Cody was like, okay, all right. Exactly. I'll go in the Herrera chair.
Yeah.
I'm little counts for the show.
No. I am much bigger than little counts. So
Kevin Wells running the ones and twos for us tonight. Becky in the live YouTube chat is at a concert, but nevertheless,
she's still here,
tuned in to the live YouTube chat.
That
is a dedicated viewer.
What would we do without people like Becky at a concert? Who cares whoever's playing? She's here to watch us talk about the Chicago Cubs.
Becky, the question we want to know, what concert? Let us know how it is.
Yeah.
Ryan Herrera will join us on this podcast. He is in Cincinnati. He was there for the big trade deadline, the big meh, as I like to call it.
Meh.
Because that's what it was. Let's start with that, right? We'll get to the game in a second and Steele and all that stuff. I guess the most recent move, the last move they made was Mark Leiter Jr. to the Yankees. They get back two prospects, Jack Neely, a 24-year-old who's like 6'8" or 9, throws hard, a reliever, and 24-year-old Ben Cowlis, who apparently just broke his wrist recently and likely will miss the rest of the season. Now, the key with both of these guys the Cubs are getting back in that deal is that both have to be added to the 40-man if you want to protect them from the Rule 5 draft in December. So we'll see how that all works out. So all in all, the new-look Cubs, Isaac Paredes, Nate Pearson, Jack Neely, Ben Cowlis. Who did they trade away? Well, we know that the big name obviously was Christopher Morel, then Mark Leiter Jr., Hunter Biggie, and then what I like to just call prospects of interest. But not anybody that was, they didn't deal away. Again, they're holding on to the big name prospects. None of those guys have been dealt. The biggest name to go, obviously, is Morel. That's the one surprising one, maybe.
Well, I think a lot of prospect gurus that follow the Cubs would also say Hunter Biggie, but that to me is still a small percentage of people.
He'd be the highest rated prospect, right? Morel's already a major leaguer.
Yeah.
And Leiter's already a major leaguer, a homegrown guy
who
they had control of.
Biggie wasn't even a top 30 guy, but
right. But I mean, like of those names, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
No, Morel's the biggest name on here, obviously. Yeah.
I also feel like you kind of replaced Biggie with Neely.
Yeah.
Similar profile in terms of good fastball.
Or Pearson.
Hard throwing. Yeah. It all
Take
works.
your pick. They added two guys that are similar to what Biggie is.
Yeah.
Sure.
And shoveled the names around or mixed up the names a little bit. Listen, I like Mark Leiter Jr. Do I think he's been overused and there's a chance he won't be as good next year? I do think that's possible.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's real possible. Overall,
you also get two top 30s from the Yankees for him, probably because he still has 2 more years of control after this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's inexpensive.
Yeah. Mark Leiter fit this team well, and the team just didn't go to a level that they could have while Leiter was here. You put Leiter on a playoff contending team,
Good
like
specialist.
the Yankees, and that's a very valuable piece to have.
Yeah. I would say my overall thoughts on the Leiter trade is it's fine. It's a fine trade, but it's also like underwhelming considering the market. Like Tanner Scott got a haul. Like the Marlins got a haul for Tanner Scott. Now I know Tanner Scott
raised it
is
well
better.
with Jason Adam too.
I know that Tanner Scott is better, and he is a closer, and that's different than Mark Leiter Jr., who's more of a specialist, late inning guy, whatever. I get that. I feel like you, in some way, you could have got more. But I am excited about Neely. So we'll see if the utility infielder is someone we see down the line. Maybe. I mean, they're both top 30 prospects. To get a top 30 prospect for a guy that a few years ago you literally picked up off the street and turned into a high leverage reliever is actually really good.
And not only picked up off the street, but then DFA'd.
Yes.
Did not get taken.
And then bring back.
And then brought back again.
Like the fact that no one wanted him and you picked him up multiple times and he became a really valuable reliever for you. And you were able to get 2 top 30 prospects out of another system is fine. But, again, I do feel a little underwhelmed.
Do you feel underwhelmed by the whole trade deadline for the Cubs? I mean, I think they sort of did exactly, in some ways, they did exactly what we've asked them to do on this podcast. If you're going to be adding pieces, only add guys that will be here for the next couple of years, only for the future. You don't want any rentals. They aren't rentals. And I personally said, it's time to mix some things up.
Yeah.
So that they may not be done with that. That could all still happen this winter, but it is sort of a jump start by moving Morel and kind of shuffling the deck on that a little bit too.
I would say the only reason I'm a little underwhelmed is like I just feel like it would have been very easy for them to just move Smiley or Tauchman or Neris. Maybe not so much Neris, but like Smiley's been pretty good this year for the role they've had. He's making $9 million total this year, which means at this point here at the end of July, how much more do you have to pay for the rest of that contract? I don't know, but I'm surprised like the Braves, for example, they were kind of rumored to maybe be interested in him. Like I'm surprised.
Chavez 2.0.
Yeah, like I'm surprised that just didn't happen because like it's not that I wanted him gone. It's just more about like what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean
I feel like you can kind of say that about the other couple guys I already mentioned. Some of these marginal guys that just they're not a big part of the future. And I as someone who is a big fan of Mike Tauchman, like we're at a point now where PCA's got to play every day. Bellinger is back, and they didn't trade Bellinger for obvious reasons. And it's just like now you're back to 5 outfielders and. Like if Tauchman's just going to be coming off the bench and like he did tonight and get a regular at bat every day or whatever, that's fine. I just don't really necessarily think he deserves any starts.
Here's why I think they might not have traded Tauchman.
Sure.
If the market wasn't there right now, because he's sort of just coming back, right? And if the market wasn't there right now and you're just going to give him away for a prospect that you're not going to put on your 40-man and you're not going to play, then you might as well take him into the offseason in the possibility that some of those outfield prospects that you're holding on to still could be traded. And then you might want Tauchman back as your 4th outfielder or just
whatever, yeah.
Sure.
It's another chess piece that you take into the offseason. Is he a movable guy in the offseason when they go to the winter meetings? Of course he is.
Well, and I think part of it is you also need to find not a willing suitor. Like you don't want to give him away for free. And B, you need to find someone that's willing to give you something in return. It's not just, well, why didn't we trade him? It's, why didn't this...
That is a fair point. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they didn't move him because...
For Tauchman, I'm more surprised that you couldn't find someone.
Yes.
For Smiley, kind of in the same boat. For Neris, not at all.
Yeah.
What about Tyone? Obviously, the rest of his contract plays into that.
It does.
A team has to be willing to take on the next couple of years.
But $18 million for a third guy, I feel like isn't bad value.
I think holding on to him, we've seen how important pitching depth is. Now, yes, you might have been trading high on him because he's
Sure.
had a good season. But if you get this guy back next year, I don't hate that in the rotation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When you have to bring in, you don't know what you're. Well, we assume Cade Horton's into the rotation. Okay. What if it's not all strawberries when he comes up?
Sure.
I like to have some guys I know that I'm going to eat some innings with.
We also don't know. We saw that Jed Hoyer said the thing about there was another trade that he thought would have happened that didn't happen at the last minute. We don't know what that trade was. We don't know who was involved. Could have taken the White Sox route and packaged four of your assets together.
Could have been Tyone. Could have been Steele. Could have been Nico Horner.
Yeah. Could have been anything.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Tyone for me, I kind of had one foot on what Luke was saying, and I kind of had another foot in the fact that, yeah, you have a lot of pitching depth, but at the same time, you have a lot of young pitchers coming up. Like, Cade Horton's going to be a guy next year. Do I think he's going to make 30 starts next year? No. So that's one reason why I kind of lean with Luke on, having a guy like that, because he's not only proven to be able to do it for an entire year more than once, but he's been effective, right? Cade Horton has a higher ceiling. You also have guys like Javier Assad, Hayden Wisniewski, Ben Brown, Jordan Wicks.
Two of those people excited me for next year, but that's another story.
I would say 4 of those 5 should at least excite everyone. I'm sorry. Like Jordan Wicks, Cade Horton.
Wicks, Brown, and Horton. I wasn't
Brown.
Including Horton.
Okay.
Assad and Wisniewski, I'm not feeling as
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not here to argue that. But
that's another podcast.
The thing is they have guys, and then they, it's, if they would have traded Tyone, then I feel like you still have to go sign a pitcher anyway. Now, if that pitcher were to be Corbin Burns this offseason, then yeah, I would have been more so if I knew that, right?
Sure.
If I knew that's in the plan for the Cubs this offseason, then yeah, I would have been more so on the let's move Tyone while he's hot around the league, right? I'm not sure what kind of held that up, Like I don't have any inside sources, obviously, but I'm kind of indifferent about it because, like Luke said, you need depth.
Gary in the live YouTube chat is talking about this failed trade with a long-term piece. Gary, just come out and say it. What are you holding back? Who are you holding these big stories for?
Gary was in my TikTok live this afternoon telling me this from like some people that he knows.
Well, that's all right.
I know them
Gary,
too.
We'll listen to you.
And that's fine. Like
I always listen to Gary.
He wants to
he
share
broke
it in
the
here,
Hard
that's
Knock
fine.
story. Gary broke the Hard Knock story.
He did. I'm not.
His sources broke it.
I don't.
Carm didn't believe him.
I didn't tell Gary that I didn't believe what he said. Like, it's better than anything I would have thought up. So even if it is a made up story by whoever, But
we're not here for facts, anyways.
Yeah.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
We don't let the facts get in the way. FAX, baby. But
come on, Gary.
I think that a bigger question for me though is how much they like kind of hung Nico Horner out there to teams, because after the Dodgers traded for Tommy Edman, they were out.
Yep.
The Yankees never made a move for him. Would he have been part of the Tyone trade if that would have been a thing? Who knows? And the only reason I say this is because you traded for Paredes, you now have Matt Shaw and James Triantos as guys who play second base and are in your system and are going to be debuting at some point. And now it comes down to the idea of, okay, where will the organization decide? You have 2 more years of Nico Horner, and then, or you could trade him, or you could trade Shaw and Triantos, or one of them, or both, most likely, for a big piece that maybe puts your team over the top. I don't know what that's a conversation we're going to be having for the next 6 months. Like I think second base is a big question. As much as I like Horner, as much as I think he's a great defensive player, me and you both have sat here and said he's not an untouchable guy, and this team needs more slug.
Nobody on this team was untouchable for the right deal.
If it was up to me right now, I would in the offseason be thinking about seriously moving Horner and giving Matt Shaw the job.
One of the problems that you run into, though, with that is that second base is not traditionally a big slug point. Now, it could be if you find the right person. Matt Shaw might be it, too.
Sure.
What you run into, though, is Nico Hoerner would be a great piece to a core.
Hold that thought.
Sure.
We will talk more about that in a second. First, make Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram your #1 draft pick this summer to find the perfect new car for you. This July, shop a wider selection of vehicles at Ray CDJR and score new, lower prices across their huge inventory during the Make This the Summer event. For a limited time, lease the new 2024 Jeep Compass Latitude for only $189 a month, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you land the perfect vehicle at the perfect price, because with Ray's price promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you expect when you shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's price promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you got to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. Boy, the best way to get through this trade deadline, let me tell you, was holding on to an ice-cold Blue Moon, sipping it slowly while you watched the moves go by. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball. Only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon, created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado, the natural choice all season long, especially at the trade deadline. And nothing beats watching baseball or lounging by the pool the rest of the summer better than having an ice-cold Blue Moon in your hand. Blue Moon, brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia, get you excited for the season. A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's getbluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. By the way, if you want that hot scoop from Gary Ross, you got to sign up to be a diehard and head into the Discord.
Oh, I'm sure it's in the
Discord.
So
we thank Gary for taking that pertinent information and hiding it in our Discord, and that's where you'll find it. Sign up to be a diehard. It's worth that. You get Ryan's articles. You get discounts to our events, including the takeover coming up. We've got Big Bears events coming up this season, and we got lots there for you to check out at the diehard. And of course, you get the diehard card, which you can throw down anywhere and instant respect. Throw it down, instant respect. All right, we're going to talk about the game for a second. You were saying before we went to break that second base isn't a place you necessarily have to have.
No, it doesn't mean that you can't have it, but you'd love it in your other spots. And I feel like giving up Hoerner, or not giving up, but just moving on from Hoerner right now in the idea of just trying to find more slug when Hoerner's doing all right.
You say that with a big sigh.
Wow,
bro.
What a vote of confidence. That sounds like
that's
Pedro Grafal got.
He's not. You're right. He's not untouchable at all. Mm-hmm. It just I don't know if slug is the reason why I would put the end of the Nico Hoerner
that's
era.
Fair. That's fair. I'm not. The thing is I'm not asking for Matt Shaw or James Triantos to come up and hit 40 bombs. I'm asking
Nico Hoerner, 30 run home run hitter. That would be so.
I'm
great.
asking for a second baseman who can maybe hit more than 10. You know.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know people in the chat. I've already seen it, and it's laugh out loud funny. Like, Morrell could have played second base and given you 40 home runs, even though he's never hit 40 home runs in his career. But I digress.
Last year combined, minors and pro.
But the thing is, the thing that it's interesting to me is with Hoerner's situation is because of the Paredes trade, you now have a backload.
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have, right? They didn't used to have this kind of problem. This is what you do with prospects. You have to move some of them. Not all of them are going to play for the Cubs. All right? Like, it's just the fact of the matter. Barb, please close your ears if you're bothered by that, okay? But leave the video up. But the thing is that's a big question. Like, and it will be a huge organizational decision, in my opinion, if they decide to roll with Hoerner the next 2 years after the season.
Yeah.
Or trade him and give Matt Shaw or James Triantos that opportunity. They're both top 100 prospects, and they're both close to debuting. I mean, I will say this. I am surprised that Matt Shaw is still in Double-A. He's been really good in Double-A the last handful of months, and so has Triantos. So in my eyes, I'm wondering, okay, well, they've been slow. They've been really slow on promoting a lot of guys, but once they get to Iowa, how many at-bats do they want them to get in Iowa? You know, like,
don't forget your first-round pick is an infielder, too.
Yeah, but he's third base. And
I'm just saying, well, maybe he's third base.
Matt Shaw was maybe third base out of the draft.
Well, Cam Smith played third base at Florida.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Florida State, whatever. But I think it is a really big decision. It might be a bigger decision than this Paredes and Morel trade, you know, in the long run. Because Morel, like, yeah, he was a top prospect in your farm system when your farm system was terrible, but Matt Shaw and James Triantos have for the last couple of years have been touted as these highly touted prospects, both top 100 prospects in baseball. And Hoerner, you know, almost a 5-WAR player last year, Gold Glove, all this, but will he be better than what we've seen? Yeah. Are Shaw or Triantos better than him, or do they have a higher ceiling at least? I don't know which one I want more. Do I want the guy who's better defensively, which I lean as Hoerner, or do I want the guy who might have a higher offensive ceiling? Considering how much watching this team and watching how much it needs more offense, it makes me lean to want to go to a guy that you drafted in the first round last year.
What if it just comes down to cutting payroll?
Don't trigger Godfather.
That's the worry with Mark
Let's
Leiter,
be honest,
right?
That's
the Mark
you
Leiter
don't think
trade,
that's a
right?
factor? I guarantee it's a factor.
Yeah.
Don't trigger
All right,
Godfather.
we're going to talk more about the trade deadline. We'll talk about Morel's home run tonight. We'll talk about him playing second base. But we do want to mention the game, which the Cubs lost 6-3. Cody Bellinger provided the power for tonight's game, presented by the Illinois pork producers. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. Bellinger hit his first home run since June 12th, his 10th of the season. First game back, wasn't traded, and he finally gets a home run. Listen, I know it's all about everybody assumes he's going to opt in, this and this and this. What you want from Cody Bellinger, the one thing you want from Cody Bellinger, the two things you want, stay healthy, hit for some more power.
Yep.
Right? It's that simple.
Yep.
There's nothing else to dislike about the player.
No.
Maybe the paycheck, but
yeah,
in reality,
It's not our money.
He's a good player. He's a good defender. He's a versatile defender. And if you can get him to hit the home runs, just hit the home runs you hit last year. Hit with the slug that you hit last year.
Cody,
That's really it.
How many flyouts? How many warning track flyouts this weekend or this week?
Brother.
Oh, well, we looked it up. It's not an official major league stat, but I went back and I dug through the Stuckey stats. The Cubs have now hit to the warning track 6,001 times this season.
Don't let the
6,001 to lead Major League Baseball by about 5,000.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That's correct.
But it's Tuesday. In the first 2 days of this week alone, I've gained at least 6 pounds because of warning track flyouts.
Yeah.
Which included like 3 more tonight. And I still don't understand how
many by Ian Happ, too?
Yeah. I still don't understand how Swanson's ball wasn't a home run. I watched the replay over and over. I felt like that I don't understand the rule.
It has to hit the yellow and go over.
Yeah, it has to be above.
If it hits the yellow and comes back.
I thought it ricocheted off something and then came back.
It looked like it.
Yeah. At first, it looked like it hit the yellow and then the little fencing behind it, but it didn't.
I admittedly, in my head, it's like if it's above the yellow line, then it's a homer. But apparently, it can't hit the yellow line.
It's also frustrating, too, when Pete Crow-Armstrong hits the ball farther than Cody Bellinger did and stayed in the park.
That's true, too.
You know,
That's
it just
true.
hit it to the wrong part.
Literally by 2 feet, he hit it further than Bellinger, but somehow it stayed in the park. If there was any positives to take away from tonight, I did think PCA had some good at-bats. He's been hitting the ball hard. Now I sound like I'm talking about Christopher Morel this year. He's had a lot of at-bats over the last couple months that have been really frustrating, whether he's striking out, rolling over to the second base side, whatever. Tonight, he hit the ball hard. He hit the ball hard up the middle. He hit the ball, like the ball that Kevin just referenced that almost went out. You know, like, it's baby steps with him right now. It really is baby steps, and he's young, and I'm a believer, and so hopefully we continue to see that, and then hopefully see good results come eventually. So, this is where we're at here in the season.
What I had Paredes for my who you got because I thought he's going to do it. Chance for a grand slam.
Well,
taken away, homer. Then it became a chance for a 3-run homer and a little flare short.
Never know. He might have hit.
Would you call it a flare?
It didn't. They said liner. To me, it looked like it had a little bit of rainbow on it.
But I wouldn't. A flare is like a bloop. It wasn't a bloop.
He didn't hit it very hard.
What was that?
I agree. He didn't hit it very hard, but that doesn't mean that it's a flare.
70 miles an hour? Flare.
Okay.
I'm throwing flares.
I've seen flares behind cop cars. That's what that was. That was a little flare being waved.
So are we going to use the next every single postgame show for the next 2 months to judge Paredes and Morel?
Did the Cubs hit
a homer tonight. Paredes went 0-4 in his Cubs debut. All right, Rays 1, Cubs 0. We'll check back in tomorrow.
Here's one thing I will say about the Morel deal with the home run and obviously starting at second base for the Rays tonight. They are going to try and find him a position. That's the only position anybody possibly could say that Morel plays remotely well, right? Like that's what
base, yeah.
Second base. Okay. But the Cubs have all these guys that we just talked about. And so my question to you is if you're only going to keep Morel, it's because you think you can make him a complete player on the defensive side. If it's only at second base, would you rather have Morel and his power, but certainly not as good a defense, at second than Nico Hoerner? Would you trade that power, but the double play combo is not going to be as good?
No, because he's also hitting 199. And even
that's the trick. Yeah. He has to be doing one of the two.
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing either this season.
And we joked about it earlier that it was like not how hard is defense in Major League Baseball, but how can you be that bad?
But you assume that Shaw might be able to give you a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to be a hybrid. Maybe somebody else is going to be a hybrid. Triantos. Or maybe it's Nico and Nico just starts to up the power magically. I don't know what the answer is. I just don't think I don't think trading Morel was a big mistake. I think if Morel goes on to hit 40 home runs in his career, which I hope he does, I just don't think that was going to happen with the Cubs.
No.
Because it only would have come at the DH position.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have had to have fixed his swing.
And it fits the managerial approach that Council brings. He doesn't like to use one DH, and that's Morel is a one-dimensional, one-tool player.
You also have multiple guys coming up at DH that could play DH too.
Exactly.
Casey, Ballesteros. There's two right there.
Yeah. Right. So, and we talked about this you're probably going to see both of those guys next year, maybe even earlier than that. So you need to have space for them. If you want to give them free reign like you've given PCA, you got to have the DH spot open.
What if you got to put Seiya there next year?
Yeah.
Could be.
Or
through the outfield defense.
Or at least play him there some. They're not going to have an everyday DH.
Juan Soto might want to be there.
Don't trigger the chat, Luke. You are triggering the chat with the last 10 minutes, dude.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, right, Matt? Thank you.
They're already hurt from the loss. They're hurt from the underwhelming trade deadline.
Did it bother you that he played at second base in his first game, Morel?
No. It was the most obvious thing. The most obvious thing.
Did it bother you that he hit a home run? Rizzo, home run in his first game after being traded. Bryant, home run, first game after he was traded. Baez, home run in his first game after being traded. And now Morel, home run in his first game after being traded.
So Morel's going to be even worse.
It's the 3 years. Yeah. It's the flip the bird.
Yeah.
I would say it will. Admittedly, I laughed whenever
Yeah, it was,
like Patrick was on the other side of the office. He came over and he's like, "Hey, guess what? Guess who homered?" And I was like, "Of course." Like all I could do is laugh. All right. So yeah, I mean, if y'all want to play it, we Rays 1, Cubs 0. We'll check in tomorrow. Like, I don't really know what you want to do, but we can. But I don't know. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is at this point. And I still think and we've already kind of talked about it and hinted at it, like the defense that Paredes brings, which again isn't elite, but it's still competent, which is not even what Morel could do. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as his biggest supporter on this podcast, even I acknowledge that his defense wasn't good. All right. I do think it took steps as the season went along, but it still wasn't good enough to where you could feel like you could play him there every day, every single night. We come in here on this show and the YouTube chat would tell us that Morel sucks. That's what makes it so funny that there's people in our YouTube chat now complaining about the trade. So many people done with this guy, they trade him, and people are pissed that they traded him.
A lot of people also complaining about Jed Hoyer when Jed Hoyer has genuinely done a pretty good job at trade deadlines. In his tenure as president, he's made a lot of good trades at the deadline.
But hold that thought, gentlemen, because our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. It'll make you feel better about the trade deadline. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection of over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. Stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff, or you might run into Corey. He might be there. Corey give you some expert advice.
Cody Bellinger might be there after
Cody Bellinger might be there.
Saw tonight after he hit the homer.
Here for the summer is Good News Tea Time Disposable Vape, bringing the classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. Corey told me he loves Mindy Segal's award-winning chocolates at Sunnyside. You can too by visiting sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. 50% off. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders.
They increased the discount. It was like 35.
50%.
They increased it to 50%.
Off. That's right. They are giving the hookup. That is the hookup right there.
They know the Cubs are hurting us, so they're like, here, guys, let's do you a favor, all right? Yeah, I'll do you a favor here now by telling y'all about FOCO. Get fitted out with the best sports gear around, hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Going to a basketball or hockey game, baseball game perhaps. Show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets, perhaps. Whether it is jackets, benchwear, beachwear, or even overalls, there's something for fans.
Or benchwear for the judges out there.
For every occasion. Beachwear, benchwear, whatever. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Luke.
All you judges out there, get your benchwear at FOCO.
I also can't read, apparently. Set Decorations FOCO has donated a few massive, awesome pieces for our sets, and legitimately awesome. Our Clark the Cub one behind me here to the left there. That's from FOCO. Go show them some love. We got the Wisniewski one. We always like to bring up the one about the former Cubs legend, Schwarmer, Matt Schwarmer. You can get a Matt Schwarmer bobblehead on FOCO, man. It's a huge collection.
Your Honor, is that a Matt Schwarmer bobblehead?
Yes, it is. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO10 for 10% off. And hopefully by the end of the show or tomorrow, maybe I'll learn how to read.
Your Honor, I'd like to approach the bench.
That was easily my favorite.
Did you see the deal? You can get on that Matt Schwarmer bobblehead.
The best Stucky quote last season: "Pour one out for the Swarm Dog."
Pour one out. My favorite part of the Matt Shormer era is that random, 7 innings he shoved against the Cardinals in 2022. It's like the most random, June or July game.
Wasn't the friends that we made along the way?
Well, that too. It's always just included, the friends that we made along
It's implied.
the way.
I'm hoping that we have cool enough weather late in the season that a Friday 120 you can wear the overalls. Because those are pretty sweet.
Those have been sitting in my apartment. And
they're sweet. They're just waiting to be worn.
It was too cold to wear them in April.
Yeah, but now it's
too hot.
Yeah.
So maybe the September weather I can put them on and I'll feel okay, I'm definitely not going to wear them in August. I know how it gets here. In August, it gets freaking humid. And it's already been humid. The weather here in Chicago right now, it's muggy. So I ain't wearing them Friday, that's for sure. But anyway, I'm
sorry, I interrupted Kevin to get to that ad read. What were you saying, Kevin?
I was talking about Jed, and I'm looking at the chat again too. I'm strictly talking about trade deadlines. Jed has done an objectively good job at trade deadlines these last couple of years.
Too early to judge this one.
Yeah.
Yes, but
on paper, I'm not.
It's 1-0 race.
On paper, I'm not disappointed in it.
He has known when to pull the trigger on certain things, and he made a very aggressive trade with Paredes. That's what we've been asking for. I'm not talking about the offseason because objectively offseason acquisitions have not been great the last couple of years.
Or else the team would be winning.
He, methodically at trade deadlines, he has been pretty smart about the way he's handled things. Could he have done more? Yeah, absolutely. Every GM in baseball and every GM in sports, you're always going to want them to do a little bit more at the deadline. But, sometimes it takes two to tango. And, we'll see. The jury's out on this one. We don't know. But the last couple, last year and the year before, looked pretty good. He gave the team a chance last year, traded the core a couple of years ago, all looking like they're going to work out. So
the 2022 one was good too. You got Ben Brown and Wisniewski at that deadline. And, a lot of people complain about not getting anything for Contreras, even though the comp pick they got, they selected Jackson Wiggins out of Arkansas, who's in high A right now and already, I believe, in their top 30 prospects. That said, at the time, they could have had a pitcher from the Astros, I believe, but Dusty Baker basically canceled the trade or whatever. He went to Astros ownership and said, no, we're not doing this trade or something because they didn't want to implement a catcher in the middle of the season, whatever. So that's why. But that's also why you can argue them making the trade for Leiter now, or when they did, as kind of like a positive way to look at it, because in some ways he did it to avoid going down to the final few minutes or whatever, I guess. And perhaps they wouldn't have got as good of a deal as he did then.
Or anything at all. So I know Leiter is a reliever and Contreras is a catcher, so complete different things, but
I still think that packaging all of your trade assets in one deal, that's the new way to go.
Yeah. You believe that?
Well, they probably could have got a really good package if it was like Tyone, Leiter, and Horner.
Sure. Those are good players. So, that's the difference.
Or had done Tyone and Leiter, if you were going to keep Horner. Who knows how much Horner was really out there to teams, but clearly the Dodgers didn't want to trade for him. They'd rather have taken a chance on Tommy Edman, who has been hurt all season.
He can provide pop, though. That's kind of
he can, But again, he's been hurt all season. Yeah. Do they really know what they're going to get out of him coming back? They don't. In some ways, that's kind of a risk.
Yeah.
They didn't want to give up any prospect capital for Horner, I guess, or whatever the Cubs were asking for. So I thought Horner made a lot of sense for the Dodgers because they've been getting nothing at second base all season. So that or the Braves because Albies got hurt.
True. One thing that I think is interesting is the Cubs seem to have this philosophy of not wanting to spend big free agent money on a closer, right? Mm-hmm. Something that the Godfather and a lot of people on this podcast have said over and over, they need to go get a closer. They need a legit closer. They needed a legit closer, okay? And so we're waiting to see how are they going to go about doing it. It appears over and over that they're either going to go with reclamation project that turns into closer, or they keep hoping that one of these young arms will show closer and they'll get it cheap, right? They'll walk in because closers can be expensive, whether it's free agency or as we saw today with the Marlins trading, it can be expensive the other way. if somehow you can develop multiple guys that are
High leverage arms.
and at some point, heaven forbid you don't need one of them, that's when you get a return like the Marlins got for trading away their closer. Now, I don't really want to go pursue that closer and give away 4 prospects who are in my top 20. What did they give up? Did they give up 4 or 5? And the Marlins gave up 3. Their third prospect, the Padres. Yep. I kept saying Marlins. Mm-hmm. Padres traded their number 3 prospect, their number 4 prospect, their number 6 prospect, and their number 29 prospect to the Marlins. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see the Cubs give that up to go
for a closer.
Yeah. But then that means either Ben Brown or one of these guys, maybe it's Pearson, maybe it's Merriweather again next year, but I don't know who it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But if it's not going to be one of them, then they've got to pony up in the offseason and go pay for one.
Right. Well, I've said this all season that the best case scenario was if they developed one. And I don't say this.
We keep waiting for it.
Well,
right? Like
the point I'm getting at here is that it's not that I don't think the Cubs wouldn't trade prospects for one if they were one piece away. We've seen them do that under this same basic, not only the same ownership, but also same front office. I mean, Jed was part of the front office, right, when they traded for Chapman, mm-hmm. right? But all the best teams in baseball do this, right? Like,
yeah.
All the best teams in baseball, their closer is a guy they developed.
Trying to think of anybody that isn't, but yeah.
Who's the closer? Is Kimbrel closing games in Baltimore?
No, they already removed him. They removed him because he was struggling.
Sorry, Barb.
I think Kenley Jansen was closing in Baltimore. But you're right. I mean,
the Red Sox aren't the best team in baseball, or among the best teams in baseball.
I think for the Baltimore, it would
they're
be
good, but they're not.
Too, yeah. I think is a homegrown guy.
Like with the Padres, for example, which makes it even crazier to me that they sent all that for Tanner Scott, because Suarez has been great for them, and he made the All-Star team for them this year, and they got Estrada, but they definitely bolstered the bullpen on top of getting Jason Adam from the Rays.
I would have expected a team like Arizona to be more in the mix for a closer like that.
Sure, especially since Sewald has struggled this year
a lot this month. Yeah. He started off the year fine, mm-hmm. I think, or at least a month before was fine. But yeah.
Price of a good closer, rental or for the future. Mm-hmm. Very, very. We talked about one all season. It was like, listen, mm-hmm. doesn't come cheap.
No,
that's why you're not going to get that guy cheap. It's one of the most valuable things you can find.
I think Cody and I are in the same boat. That hey, I don't know if it'll be or I don't know if it'll happen. It would be awesome if Luke Little could be that high leverage arm in the future.
Porter Hodge, maybe Porter Hodge is that guy.
Right now, based off Nearest is still here, so I still think he's going to pitch in the 9th inning, but I would love to see Porter Hodge just get a chance,
get a taste,
get a taste. If Nearest pitches 2 days in a row or something, and you're in a position for a save in the 9th inning in some random ass game here as the season finishes out, I would love to see Porter Hodge get that opportunity to close the game out, because I think Porter Hodge has been the best thing that's happened to the bullpen all season.
Ben Brown looked like a guy that could do it too, but he also would have value for you as a starter. So,
sure.
We'll kind of have to.
His injury has been such a bummer because and when I say bummer, it's not because of if they had him, they'd have more wins. I do think they'd probably have a few more wins if he was playing, which is crazy to think about considering he's just a rookie. But it's a bummer because he was so good in whatever role they asked him to pitch in. He started games. He pitched out of the bullpen, and then he had great stuff. 2-pitch pitcher too, But hopefully he comes back here in the next 2 months and finishes out the season strong and kind of forms a role somewhere.
I don't know. I just noticed that for the Dodgers to get Flaherty, they didn't give up any top 100 prospects. I know it's a rental. He's had a good season.
He's got injury issues.
But it made me wonder about the starting pitching thing for the Cubs.
They gave up first-round pick Trey Sweeney, okay? Yeah. Out of Eastern Illinois University.
Oh.
Harvard of the Midwest.
It's not that they didn't get a good prospect. They didn't get a top 100 in baseball prospect.
Yeah, you're right. No.
Right? So I don't know what the market
Ken
was.
Rosenthal recently, I don't know if you saw it before, but he did say that the Yankees backed out of a deal for Flaherty because of medical issues.
Well, I mean, he's had plenty of medical problems. There's
So concerns about his future, I suppose.
I mean, he's a rental.
The reason
They
I think
needed
they
it.
didn't go after Tyone, or maybe they did, but my general thinking on this is think of how many starting pitchers they have that are better than Tyone right now, that are injured, that are going to be in that starting rotation next season. They wouldn't have room for Tyone. Tyone wouldn't be in the top 5 if you're bringing all of those guys back from the injured list.
that's
next
depressing, isn't it?
Right. That's what I mean. Like the Dodgers have so many bodies, but they're all hurt right now. So Flaherty makes a lot more sense for them, even though he's not as good as Tyone. Tyone's had a better year than Flaherty.
What you're saying is like it's kind of like
It's planning, you know.
with that, but like in Tyone's the grading of Jameson Tyone, like he eats innings. He's a veteran. He's pitched for a long time. Like he's had success. All these things. Then you literally, on the other hand, if it's like Kevin, you literally just said it. They have other guys who are better than him.
Yeah. They have about 5 starting pitchers who are better than Tyone.
And are probably cheaper too.
Yeah.
You know, because they're guys they developed. So it's like one of those things where it's lose-lose with Tyone, in my opinion. That's why I felt like if there was one team that would have made a lot of sense for them, it was Baltimore, because they didn't really have a lot of starting pitching outside of Burns and Rodriguez. They added Eflin, and that's probably that. If they didn't get Eflin, they might have been a little bit more aggressive on Tyone.
And if they want to extend Corbin Burns next year on a big deal, Tyone's and an affordable contract, it would have made sense.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
But, you know, that didn't go through, and it is what it is.
I'm happy Tyone is still here. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good pitcher. I just think for the Dodgers' sake, if you're going to go after one of their big prospects think about it. I mean, they have Walker Buehler, Dustin May, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Ohtani. All 4 of those guys aren't pitching right now. Like they're, you know, those, and there's another one in there I'm missing too that are all in that
Bobby
starting rotation
Miller?
next year.
They demoted him.
He went back down, but he's another guy they're high on.
Yeah.
So
Gavin Stone has been a savior for them.
I just listen. You'll still be able to trade Tyone if you really, really want to in the winter meetings or in the off season if that's the way you want to go. But how long do people want this rebuild to be?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Cody had a point. I was told it wasn't a rebuild. It wasn't a rebuild. It was a gut rehab on HGTV. That's what it really was. It was one of those fixer-upper shows where you walk in and the cockroaches are coming out and they got to tear down all the studs, and basically it's a whole brand new building. That's what it was. No, it wasn't a rebuild. It was a gut rehab, and it's still going on. So trading Tyone probably slows down that process a little bit. I'm not saying he's the ace of your staff, but if you trade him, you better get the right package back for him. You better get something that really makes you better, because if you don't,
I
the
think
best thing this team has had is their top 3 pitchers. You take that apart, now you got to fill another spot with rotation. Don't count on all those young guys being good next year
or healthy.
Then how are you going to fix the lineup? If you think Paredes is the only guy is he going to fix the whole lineup?
No.
I think we saw tonight. No. I know it's one game. But
you didn't need to see tonight to know that, though.
But you know what I mean? Like, obviously, he's not going to fix what he's another nice piece. He's still not a superstar player. Speaking of superstars, did I hear?
He's not a superstar, but I think you can argue that he is at least in the realm of star.
He was an all-star.
30 home runs last year.
Yeah.
All right. He was a 137 WRC plus last year, 130 WRC plus the moment the Cubs traded for him.
Look at this shot. Look at this shot.
We're going to bring Ryan in right now. Look at that.
Look at Ryan Herrera. Hot off the trade deadline.
Can we ask him the most important question of the entire day that I've been wondering all day?
What is it?
Fire away.
Did he try the Skyline in Chile, and did he rate it and review it? That is the most important question.
No, I haven't tried it yet.
Haven't tried it yet.
That was the most important thing of the entire day.
I had a lot of stuff when it happened, obviously.
None of that stuff's important.
Can't you go send your intern to go get some of that stuff?
My intern is sitting in the middle of the studio right now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Little counts.
That was good.
Big counts. Yeah. Cody took your chair, and by the way, I will tell you, Ryan, he said, I like this more than I thought I would.
Well, again, the reason that I like sitting here now is because
your feet touch the ground.
That was loud. Don't worry.
The
It
reason
doesn't have
that
to be
I'm
said.
sitting
It
here
doesn't have
now
to be
is
said.
because me and Patrick are basically the same size. Hell yeah, brother. All right. And whenever I sit here and you sit in the far seat, it looks weird.
That's why I didn't like it.
But also, you basically just said why you sit in the middle. So,
Yeah, my feet don't touch the ground. That's why I like to sit there.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan,
Little
what
booster seat for
was
Ryan.
the mood by the time the trade deadline was all done? How did it feel? Well, what did Jed Hoyer have to say? All of that stuff. I heard Nico Horner on the radio today basically just talking about the morale thing and how difficult that was for a lot of players on the team, kind of a dose of reality. Leiter goes now. But when it's all said and done, how did it feel around there, and how do you think Jed Hoyer really feels?
I mean, well, specifically with, like, you mentioned the Nico and morale thing, and, like, obviously the players hate to see their teammates go, whether, you know, no matter who, like, how many players it is. Obviously, like, Mark Leiter Jr. was the one today. The guys that have gotten to know him, especially the guy that's been here for a couple of years, you know, they don't love to see those guys go, but they also understand that it's kind of the position they've played themselves into. Understand that decisions have to be made with the front office at, you know, the trade deadline, because they don't have another opportunity for the rest of the season. And so, yeah, it's more like, from the player's perspective, it sucks, but, like, you just have to control what you can control and go out and do your job and try to win baseball games. Obviously, they weren't able to do that today either. But it's all you can do at this moment. As far as Jed Hoyer, you know, talking to him right before first pitch, like 25 minutes before first pitch after the trade deadline ended, and just talking about, you know, he likes the moves that he made and feels like the moves were geared towards what he talked about, you know, last week, as far as making moves with 2025 and beyond in mind. Whether that's Mark Leiter Jr. trading him for a couple of guys in the upper levels of the minor leagues, one guy who could make his debut this year in the reliever Neely, you know, potentially could see him at the big league level some point this season. So that's part of it. You know, obviously going and getting Nate Pearson and Isaac Paredes, going and getting two guys already at the major league level, guys that can help them this year and beyond. You know, they have the team control. So he, you know, talked about with those three deals, feeling like they did a good job of sticking to kind of what their message and their idea was going into this trade deadline. Now, obviously, like, I think we all expected a little bit more, a few more deals to go through. He said they had obviously a lot of discussions and concepts, at the very least concepts, if not specifically deals, that were discussed, but that, you know, deals are hard to make, and ultimately these are the only three that they were able to get across the finish line. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like a missed opportunity to do more. We don't obviously know what was the ask for some of these guys, what other teams were willing to give up, and so now we're sitting here where the team looks pretty similar except for a couple guys, and, you know, they're talking to like Counsell and Steele and Bellinger post game. Like, there's always, regardless of the position you're in, they feel that there's always an opportunity to get better as a team, as a player. There's always room for positives after the trade deadline, and, you know, I don't expect those guys to give up on the season, but, you know, we sit here post trade deadline, another loss in the standings, and not knowing exactly where the team goes from here, except for they got some new pieces and want to see if those guys can help them, you know, maybe this season, but definitely in 2025 and beyond.
Do you think Hoyer, I don't want to say he was disappointed in those deals that didn't get across the finish line, but it does feel like we've sat here for 3 years in a row, and the common theme is we were close, but it just didn't happen. And I don't know if he's just saying it or if he really means it. And if he really means it, did he seem disappointed in the trade deadline, or he seemed satisfied with it?
I mean, based on what he said, it seemed like he is happy with what he said tone-wise. He may be somewhere more in the middle. I mean, I do think he obviously acknowledges, like, considering that they had talked about more potential deals, concepts and whatnot, that maybe he does wish there was more that could have happened, especially when they're talking about shoring up whatever parts of the roster for 2025 and beyond. I think that's part of it, but I do think at least when he talks about the pieces the moves they did make and the pieces they did bring in, he is satisfied that those pieces will help this team. Some of them now, some of them in 2025, and definitely beyond. And that's at least what they kind of think of these moves. He thinks of these moves.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously there aren't that many opportunities you get a year to go improve your team, and this is one where teams are active. Another one's when we were in Nashville and not a whole lot happened there, right? Like those deals just didn't happen at that specific time. So as long as there are still moves that they know that they need to make, I'm okay with it, right? Like as long as they realize this team isn't the team they can march out next year, because you'll get a very similar result.
Yeah.
In my mind.
If not worse.
And everyone will be fired if that were the case.
Here's one thing I wanted to throw your way, Ryan, really quick, about the fact that they didn't move any big level prospects. The depth of the system has been really rebuilt by Jed Hoyer. They are in a position of strength this offseason to do something. Did you get any hints of what he said, maybe alluding to something like that happening in a couple of months once the season does wrap up?
Good. He didn't really allude to anything. He did. Like, he was specifically asked about like Jameson Taillon. I know he's not a high level prospect, but he's someone that could have been moved at this deadline. And his main thing was like he doesn't want to comment on the guys that weren't traded. Trades that weren't made. He says it leads to speculation and doesn't make sense to him to talk about it in that way. So he's focusing more on the moves that were made versus talking and speculating on guys that are obviously still here, guys that weren't moved.
Interesting.
Yeah. Makes sense. He's not going to tip his hand yet.
Barb wants to know if there's any way they can get Jackson Ferris back.
Michael Bush?
Was that discussed?
Send Michael Bush back. Yeah.
Was that discussed?
More about tonight's game. Steele struggled his last three starts. What did he have? What did he say anything? I know on his podcast he said that he's recently been sick, but I didn't know if he had even mentioned that at all in recent interviews with you guys at the clubhouse. But that's what he said on his own show. But I'm not necessarily concerned, but I'm curious what he said after the game.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the command's been an issue. The walks have been up a little more, and like even Craig Counsell said something along the lines of it's uncharacteristic for him where the walks have been the last couple times out. Steele definitely, as far as like today, like going to go back and look at what kind of went wrong, what was affecting his command. I mean, he said that like his pregame bullpen, or like even like in between starts, the bullpen he felt really good about. The pregame bullpen felt really good about, and then obviously going out there and the Reds were able to score some runs off of him. So it's kind of like earlier in the season when he was struggling, and like you feel like he's a guy that smart enough, competitive enough, and wants to put the work in to improve and fix whatever's kind of been affecting his command. But as far as what exactly it is, I know they're going back to the drawing board. They're going to figure that out, and I guess we'll see what adjustments he might make and how he can try to go back out this next start and have a better outing.
I guess a more important question I can't believe we haven't actually asked, but like, were you guys able to talk to Paredes after the game and just kind of get a jolt on his first game as a Cub?
Well, we talked to him pregame. Didn't get a chance to speak to him after the game, but talking to him pregame, it was kind of him talking about, I don't remember exactly when he said he found out that he was being traded, but I think it was at the end maybe of a Rays game on Sunday, and kind of going through the last 2 days of picking up his life and getting out and meeting the team in Cincinnati. It's a whirlwind of 48 hours. But he's obviously he said he signed with the Cubs right after they won the World Series, or right before they won the World Series, I think. And he knows that the fans are very in tune with the players, and he, as a player, he says that he kind of thrives off that, and he needs that. And So he's looking forward, obviously, to playing at Wrigley, but also talking about the opportunity, talking about Craig Counsell and having a conversation with him pregame, like when he showed up, about respecting the people around you, doing the work, and just being yourself. And that's something that Paredes said gives him some extra confidence, just just to go out there and be himself is the message. So no, yet I have not gotten to speak to him about his first game back in a Cubs uniform. Well, I guess for the first time in a Cubs uniform, or back in the Cubs organization. But he's a guy that the Cubs look at as he's going to be here for a little while. He's going to be their third baseman. He's going to be batting right there in the middle of the order. They're gonna need him to produce in the middle of the order, whether it's this year, next year, or beyond. They're gonna need that guy. They gave up obviously a potential really big piece in Christopher Morel to get him. So they're gonna need that guy to be able to produce right there in the middle of that order.
Sure.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan. You can read all of Ryan's stuff at allchgo.com. Make sure you sign up to be a diehard so you don't miss out on anything. Safe travels on the way back.
And if you become a diehard, again, go in the Discord. You can read what Gary's the trade that he has the inside information on.
The inside scoop from Gary Ross.
He's Gary Passon, brother.
And Ryan
or Rosenthal.
I just thought of this. If you're going to get that Skyline chili and you forget your wallet, just make sure you got the diehard card with you. Because you slap that baby down, that's almost guaranteed free chili.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. It works, but don't let them get in the way.
All right, thanks, Ryan, and thanks to everybody in the live YouTube chat that was checking out the show. We appreciate that. We're back with a post-game show tomorrow again. We'll talk more about this. Ryan will tell us all about his drive if he makes it back in time. He might be off tomorrow. I'm not sure. Are you off tomorrow?
Well, it's a game tomorrow.
Yeah, are you going to be here?
No, I'll be here.
Oh, you're going to stay there.
Still.
Oh, I thought you were leaving after the trade deadline.
He's like, no.
Well, now he's definitely getting Skyline chili.
Yeah, his most important thing.
Oh, I thought the deadline was gone, and you were like, "Get me out of Cincinnati." He's going to stay.
Number one thing tomorrow.
One more
Credit
game.
to him.
Number one thing tomorrow. Skyline chili review. That's
Spending
all I want to see.
Summer day in Cincinnati. All right, thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Don't forget, we'll see you next time and fly the W.
All silly like the mayor.
Ryan, get out.
I was in the most uncomfortable position.